shit. Here we go again.
Woo! Back to the roots, baby. Yes, my friends, the time has come. The time is now. The time is to defend the lovelies of Nintendo. And this time, it's Kirby.
Kirby, that's the name.
No! If you play 4Kids openings like that, I'm bound to get flashbacks to...
Don't give it up, Don't give it up.
You son of a... Gonna have that stuck in my head for weeks now. So anyway, let's go on about game theory. Insert being that I only do game theory videos, even though I haven't done a commentary on the channel in about, I would say maybe a year. So you know what? Screw it!
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Game Theory.
Oh, how nostalgic. You know what else is nostalgic? Skipping the opening fluff of his video since it has nothing to do with what I actually want to talk about.
Oh, you're going too slow. Let me take the wheel. It's too fast. How could you even tell what's up? I can tell.
What is Kirby? Is he hero of pop star, or is he world-consuming villain? A pink puffball for good, or a fiery god of evil? The games tell us time and again that he's a hero, but can we believe what they're saying?
Yes, as you can imagine, this is another of the most widely successful insert main character is actually evil video. Because that worked out so well for Mario and Phoenix Wright. Sarcasm.
Surprisingly, Kirby lore does have an answer. Over the years, the games have slowly been revealing more and more of what the true nature of Kirby is. And the answers they're starting to give are shocking. No, Kirby is not a hero, but he's also not necessarily evil either.
Which is why you'll spend the majority of this video painting Kirby out to be a villain.
It's my theory that, if you manage to piece together all the clues sprinkled throughout the series, canonically speaking, Kirby is a reincarnated god of destruction.
So, are you saying he's Beerus?
The equivalent of a mindless super weapon related to some of the deadliest and scariest antagonists that have been haunting these games from the very beginning. Sounds crazy, right? We're still talking about Kirby, aren't we? I thought so too at first. But based on in-game lore bits, all of this seems to be what the designers are intending to do with this character.
Oh boy, I sure hope those lore bits aren't ignoring very important context that you cherry pick, cause this is saying that the developers are trying to do would be really— You know what's gonna happen. If you didn't, you wouldn't be watching this video right now.
So stick around. At the end of this two-part theory, I don't think you'll ever be able to look at Kirby the same way again. It may seem that Kirby's a hero because he's constantly saving his home Dreamland from multiple intergalactic threats, but upon closer inspection, you'll see one common thread across all of his stories. Kirby is the one unleashing the threats in the first place. In Kirby's Adventure, the second game of the series, Kirby is on a quest to restore dreams to Dreamland. To do this, we're told that he has to collect pieces of the Star Rod, which was shattered by the evil King Dedede. In truly heroic form, Kirby assembles the shards, defeats Dedede, and Dedede begs him to stop. Literally, it's dragged across the ground as he tries to convince Kirby to stop what he's about to do. But Kirby, who you'll quickly learn is surprisingly stubborn for a pink blob, ignores Dedede and goes through with replacing the Star Rod. But instead of saving everyone's dreams, this one simple act instead summons the true villain of the game, Nightmare, who needed the Star Rod as the last piece to completely conquer Dreamland. In one of gaming's earliest twist endings, Dedede was actually acting as the good guy the entire time. By destroying the Star Rod and giving the pieces to his guardians, our King Penguin here was trying to keep the powerful item out of Nightmare's evil clutches. Kirby, by assembling the rod and bringing it back, unleashes the evil that Dedede had captured and contained.
So, right out of the gate, I have issues with your first point, and that's you're ignoring some of the major context. Namely the fact that, 1, why the hell would Kirby want to trust King Dedede? You yourself already stated this was the second game in the series, and you want to know who the villain was in the first game? King Dedede, where he and several thieves stole all the food in Dreamland as well as stole the sparkling stars, which according to the instruction manual for the first game, are what allow the Dreamlanders to play and work, and without them, they're unable to find food. And you know what Dedede did? He gave them to his strongest henchmen to guard. Sound familiar? It's the exact same thing King Dedede does in the second game. Why would Kirby ever think to question, maybe King Dedede is a good reason for this, when he's pulling the exact same thing he did in the first game? If you look at the story in the manual of the second game, you've got this dialogue from the manual.
So, you're up to your old tricks again, eh, Dedede?
Accused Kirby. What are you talking about, young pudgeball? Dedede looked surprised. I thought I'd do everyone a favor by—
No!
Kirby shook his head.
I won't listen to your tricks. What have you done with the Star Rod?
Oh, that old thing? Dedede said nonchalantly. I broke it into several pieces and gave each piece to one of my friends. Secondly, I bring this up since, unlike MatPat here, this actually established something else, namely, Dedede's reputation. And thirdly, this ignores Dedede's actions or lack of actions. Also from the instruction notebook, we're told without the pleasant dreams, the Dreamlanders are made miserable. If Dedede was really trying to do good, then shouldn't he have tried to inform Dreamlanders about the situation, especially since it would have had a negative effect on them either way? Oh, and considering that Dedede's taking a bubble bath in what could be essentially considered sacred ground for Dreamlanders, and yes, he takes a bubble bath in the Dream Spring, that is clearly showing a lot of disrespect. Would you ever consider listening to someone who's been proven to be a thief, who's done something similar before, someone who's defacing a sacred monument, and someone who didn't bother to say, hey, there's this ancient evil who I'm sealing away so we don't die, to anyone? Too long didn't listen. Thanks for cutting context, MatPat. I'm sure that won't happen again. Sarcasm!
Kirby resorts to violence first and asks questions later. And it gets even worse from here. In Return to Dreamland, it's the exact same plot again. Floating Jellybean Magalore crash lands his ship on Popstar and asks Kirby to help him rebuild. Kirby, of course, obliges. Then, Magalore asks Kirby to go one step further by defeating the four-headed dragon Landia. What reason does he give Kirby for attacking this creature? That it's evil? That it's a threat? He actually doesn't say all that much.
And if you have a pair of working eyeballs, you can clearly see MatPat is clearly blind. It's not like people can infer that this dragon is what caused damage in the first place. If you don't take care of it, it'll just attack me again. That's what the screen is showing. Heck, there's a full cutscene that gives the reason why.
Kirby doesn't need a reason anyway. He just agrees and jumps into action, beating up a dragon that he knows literally nothing about.
He knows that it attacked Malagor and the ship that they were on. Also, can I point out that this is some really stupid logic? I mean, you can make this argument about every video game character who beats up several enemies they know nothing about. Spyro the Dragon beats up and sets people on fire for who knows of nothing about. Yooka-Laylee beats up corplets that they know nothing about. Any RPG where you fight against an endless array of mooks and grunt enemies that you know nothing about. And for Landia, Landia takes down Malagor's ship and Kirby could have easily seen as an act of aggression. Kirby didn't start these fights, the monsters did. And that's actually something that's going to be coming up later in the video too.
Landia drops its prized master crown, and wouldn't you know it, but Magalore is there waiting, eager to snatch it up. The whole time he was misleading Kirby, gaslighting him, expecting our pink puffball to do the dirty work for him, taking a hit out on Landia just so he can swoop in and grab the master crown for himself. Definitely puts him calling Kirby his hero into a whole new context.
I literally have no idea why you bring that up. You're saying Kirby was misled, something that happens in fiction and all the time. The hero gets misled by the villain. Why is this a point?
Again, for a second time, we see Kirby just resorting to violence, hopping directly into action without looking to see what the real facts might be.
First example you give, I already explained why this is done, but the second one, how is Kirby supposed to find the other story? In fact, here's something interesting while I was looking this up in order to catch myself. Apparently, you cut even more context, MatPat. You cut the context that Landia attacks the ship that Kirby is on. Gee, it's not like that's a reason to find Landia suspect considering the situation. Heck, you don't even know if Landia is capable of speech at this point or could just be a wild beast. I mean, it's a four-headed dragon. It doesn't really, give the idea of, oh, let's have a cup of coffee and talk.
Speaking of villains who swoop in at the last minute, let's talk Milky Way wishes. When the sun and moon are fighting up in the sky, one civilian speaks up with a solution: Marx. His proposed answer to this literal star war is to summon Nova, a giant space watch that grants wishes, making it basically a nerdier version of Shenron from Dragon Ball. Kirby travels planet to planet to harness each one's star power, making him quite literally an invading alien army to the locals of that area. And after decimating 7 planets worth of creatures, eat your heart out, Samus.
Of course, it wouldn't be a MatPat lore video if he didn't play that card. What card, you might be asking? Well, I'll explain later.
Kirby successfully summons Nova, but before he can make his wish and justify all the damage he just caused across the galaxy, Kirby is betrayed by Marx, who wishes to take over Popstar, meaning that for a third time now, we see a villain taking advantage of our innocent Kirby. Kirby goes on to defeat Marx, but also has to destroy Nova in the process, leaving the universe one step back from where this quest first started, and ultimately invalidating all the bloodshed from all those planets that he just visited.
I love how MatPat ignores the fact that apparently you don't have to kill enemies, save for the bosses. If anything, Kirby going around massacres, it's more to the fact that the player is going on a killing spree. Huh? What was that? In any case, love how MatPat also ignores a few things, like the fact that the sun and moon stopped fighting in order to help Kirby, which actually helps justify Kirby's journey. Again, MatPat is painting a clear picture here. Oh, and that bit about there being less wishes? Yeah, let's just ignore the fact that there's the Access arc, which in Kirby Planet Robobot, I can't pronounce that correctly. There are more of these comets. And yes, they're comets, damn it. Heck, Stardream's third form resembles that of Nova, so there's a possibility of there being more wish granters out there. Which, frankly, is a bad thing. Yeah, let's just allow a wish granting device to exist. It's not like there are people out there who...
Fourth time, that's really the charm for Kirby, and starts to show the problems with his character. In Squeak Squad, Kirby's strawberry shortcake goes missing, and Kirby immediately jumps to the conclusion that it must be the work of King Dedede. No investigation, no evidence, just a pure guess that it's the king. And from there, it's straight to clobbering time.
Where he and several thieves stole all the food in Dreamland, as well as stole the sparkling stars, which according to the instruction manual for the first game, are what allow the Dreamlanders to play and work, and without them, they're unable to find food. Huh. I don't remember those. In any case, do I need to say it? No investigation? How about the fact that Dedede had a prior act of stealing everyone's food?
With Kirby inhaling his way through Dreamland's inhabitants who have nothing to do with the cake. Kirby doesn't even assume that they have anything to do with the cake, and yet he still feels it necessary to destroy them as he goes past. He relishes in it, yipping and yee-hawing as he leaps from one flattened corpse to the next. He has no sense of guilt, no sense of remorse.
Oh yeah, it's not like he ever makes those sounds when he jumps. Also, the players can just jump over the monsters and not kill them. That's the player's choice.
I died already!
Or, in some cases, players' lack of skill. And this is what I was talking about earlier. You keep applying how everyone is dead and plays like you do. Not everyone's gonna kill every enemy they come across. Also, MatPat plays off as the entirety of Dreamland is affected when this only happens on the way to Dedede's castle. 5 stages, and one of those is the castle itself.
Finally, he gets to the castle where he promptly roughs up the king. Again, a huge amount of violence for some missing strawberry shortcake.
I don't even see the point anymore.
And true to his ask questions later mentality, it's only after Dedede is passed out on the floor thanks to the Kirby beatdown that it suddenly occurs to him, quote, "Of course Dedede doesn't know anything about the cake." A bit late to figure that one out, huh, Kirby?
I mean... is that actually Kirby talking? It could just be the narrator.
It's revealed that the true culprits are the Squeak Squad, mouse-like thieves who stole the cake alongside a mysterious chest from Dedede's castle. Thinking the chest contains his missing dessert, Kirby gives chase and, alongside the Squeak Squad, eventually opens it, which releases yet another brand new evil, this time called Dark Nebula. Once again, an evil entity that was successfully kept trapped until Kirby got involved.
You know, I don't even know how people can find this to be entertaining at this point. Yeah, I know, I'm becoming jaded, but can you really blame me? Obviously, Kirby's involvement had no correlation to this new evil being unleashed. The Squeakers were still going to steal the treasure chest, so obviously they would open it up eventually. Kirby being there doesn't change that, nor should he be involved in that. It's not even, oh, Kirby distracted Dedede and his forces to the chest could be stolen, which, while dumb, isn't something that's even brought up as a possibility.
This series just needs to spice up its general plot structure.
That's what I usually think when I think one of your fans actually believes this stuff.
It's this fourth retelling of the story, though, that's especially revealing when it comes to Kirby's character. Because not only is Kirby creating the problems that he ends up having to solve,
Say what?
in most of these circumstances, he has to be forced to actually take action to clean up his own messes. In Kirby's adventure, when Nightmare appears, it's Dedede who literally has to launch Kirby at him in order to get him to do anything.
Or, you know, help Kirby get to that area while Kirby can float up. It's obviously not fast.
Return to Dreamland, same story. Magolor betrays the team, and Kirby doesn't have a clue what's really going on. I mean, look at his face. It's not until Landia, the dragon you beat all to heck for no apparent reason, picks Kirby up and throws him on his back that Kirby takes any action against Magolor. In Squeak Squad, it's even more telling. We literally just see someone release a galactic evil, and here's Kirby just worried about his cake. In fact, the game makes it very clear that that's the only reason he goes on to fight Dark Nebula. Quote, "The smoke envelops the squeaks and disappears into space. How awful. At this rate, the strawberry shortcake will be lost forever." Even at the end of the game, Kirby, who just saved the universe, only is happy when his cake is returned.
Shock of all shocks, MatPat ignoring context. How dare the hero actually want to get his own personal desire after saving the universe again?
Kirby doesn't act heroically on his own. He just gets pointed in a direction, sometimes good, more often bad, and just destroys mindlessly until the task is done. He's an unfocused weapon of mass destruction, not caring about good or evil or what he's fighting for, just fixated on whatever impulse strikes him in the moment.
It's sad I can point to your first example and prove you're wrong, MatPat. Kirby of his own volition learned that the Dreamlander's dreams weren't happening and went to his own accord to find out what happened. I get you have admitted to foregoing context in order to put out these theories, but this is something that is completely eye-rolling at this point, how you're ignoring several points in your own examples.
Even in a story as absurd as Epic Yarn. Does anyone remember why Kirby decided to fight the evil sorcerer Yin Yarn? It's not because he was going around turning people into yarn creatures like a hero would. It was because Kirby wanted to eat a tomato.
Kirby saw his favorite food, a bright red tomato. But when Kirby tried to eat it, a caped sorcerer appeared. No, that's my magic Metamato. Kirby gulped the Metamato right down. Just then, a white sock around the sorcerer's neck began to glow. Then it sucked Kirby up.
More foregoing context!
Lately there have been rumors of a caped sorcerer going around.
So, you get onto Kirby for acting irrationally, but when there's only rumors of people being turned into strings, something that hasn't happened before in the Kirbyverse as far as I know, you want him to go charging off. Make up your mind!
Kirby eventually aligns to the side of good, but it's rarely because he chooses to be good. Now compare his actions to those of both DDD and Meta Knight. DDD breaks the Star Rod to protect Dreamland.
After stealing Dreamland's food and power sources, oh, and desecrating a holy location by bathing in it without telling any members of Dreamland of the danger!
The Pandora's box that successfully keeps Dark Nebula contained is housed in DDD's castle for safekeeping. And when the king loses possession of it, Meta Knight is the one who steps in to prevent it from getting opened because the game outright says he knows what's in there. These are heroic characters, purposely putting their lives on the line to defeat evil, even if their methods are sometimes misguided or questionable.
You know, now that I think about it, with the Landia situation, I'm surprised you don't touch on the fact both Meta Knight and DDD are standing right there in the cutscenes. By your own logic, wouldn't they also be responsible for not doing anything until prompted to?
For most villainous, the intent isn't nearly as bad as it might first seem. In Revenge of Meta Knight, his whole goal for conquering Popstar is to make it less lazy. He is literally the Sporticus to Kirby's Robbie Rotten.
What he perceives to be laziness. He's starting a war based on what he sees is a lazy lifestyle. I think that might be going overboard a little bit.
Kirby boards the Halberd and blows up the entire ship. When the crew decide they want to go down with their captain, Meta Knight outright warns them, "You are about to perish. I'm sorry." That is an exact quote. Again, this is in a Kirby game. And here's Meta Knight saying, "You all are gonna die." Meanwhile, here's Kirby jetting away without a care in the world, and then watches as a ship full of people crash lands into the ocean. He literally watches them die, while keeping that adorable smile on his face.
Meta Knight was starting a war because he perceived something to be lazy. Also, if you want to talk about lines, prepare to die. Yeah, that is good intentions written all over it. I guess cutting out the fact that Meta Knight is starting a war for one of the worst reasons in video games. Also, according to the wiki article to back this up, all but Meta Knight and Sailor Waddle Dee abandon the Halberd before it crashes. Again, MatPat, do you not actually play these games or even, you know, look at wikis?
We actually get some of the best examples of how he interacts with his fellow creatures in these games, and his personality is not cute. In the game, the premise is that you puzzle battle anyone you come into contact with as you journey your way to the Dream Fountain. So, true to Kirby games, Waddle Dee happens to be your first opponent on easy mode. And here's your interaction with him. Kirby: "Hi Waddle Dee, are you ready?" Waddle Dee: "Can we just walk together? The forest scares me." Kirby: "Sorry, rules are rules." Here is a poor innocent creature scared in the woods, and Kirby responds with, "Too bad I have to beat you in a glorified Candy Crush mod."
Glorified Candy Crush mod. Second, you said it was a puzzle battle game. Why shouldn't Kirby have a bit of a competitive side to him? Apparently trash talk and trying to follow the rules of the game aren't allowed anymore?
What are you doing on computer? Go outside, so beautiful!
That game may not be canon.
Then what was the point of the last minute and a half of your video? If it isn't canon, then it shouldn't have anything to do with your theory. You could have literally pulled that part out of your video and wouldn't have affected the quality or anything. Well, actually it would have, since it would make the theory a bit better and show you're not willing to go on silly tangents and only pad out the runtime. What the hell?
Kirby's Dreamland 3. Now, in past games in the series, you could argue that Kirby was attacking creatures because they were part of DDD's army. It's not the best argument, since relatively few actively attack Kirby, but you could make that case.
So, you're willing to admit this for Kirby, but not Mario? Wow! That's a double standard. Also, no, if you just stand around and the enemy comes into contact with you, you'll get hurt. One could argue that they are actively trying to hurt you just for being Kirby.
Here, though, Kirby outright sees these creatures getting possessed, taken over by a mysterious dark substance from outer space. He should know that they're innocent, and yet he still chooses to swallow them, slice them in half with cutters, and stab them with swords anyway.
Context has been cut. Again. You know, dark matter appears in Kirby 64, and in that game, when dark matter possessed a character, Kirby had to beat them up in order to free them from possession. Who is to say that the same thing isn't happening here? And it's not like we haven't seen this sort of thing happen in fiction before. And even then, the possessed characters are doing bad things. What, do you want Kirby not to stop them and keep having them do bad things?
Just like Mario breaking the toads who'd been turned into bricks in the first game.
Oh, you son of a...
Even worse, since these creatures still look like Kirby's friends and neighbors. Doesn't matter, Kirby just runs in and tells them to get in his belly. How about all those guardians I mentioned earlier from Milky Way Wishes? They were just there on their planet doing their job, protecting their star fountains, heroes of their respective worlds, but here comes Kirby, a literal alien invader who not so heroically beats them all up.
The sun and moon were fighting. Kirby wasn't given a choice. Also, heroes? Some of these bosses are other enemies in the other games, like Krako, Camelio Arm, Twin Woods, Heavy Lobster, and Computer Virus. I mean, they appeared in Revenge of Meta Knight, so how could they be here if they were dead? I mean, you can chalk it up to continuity, but it's kind of weird to say that. I mean, it's game modes. I understand it can be a little bit confusing, but it's still something to consider.
If Kirby actually cared about the creatures he was helping, but he doesn't. In one game, he's fighting against DDD for stealing all the food in Dreamland because the people suddenly don't have enough, but then in the next, he is literally racing DDD, consuming as much as possible.
You mean the gourmet race? The thing that's being set up and has limited amounts of food, then has Dreamlanders actively participating in it, and has signs showing that there's some active planning in it? I mean, they aren't stealing the food from them, you can watch it in the gameplay!
In Dynablade, a giant bird is out there damaging all the crops of Dreamland. But is that why Kirby takes on the mission? No, it's because Dynablade flies past and caused Kirby to get knocked on the head with an apple, ruining his nap and prompting a quest for bloody revenge.
Oh, and cutting down trees and hills.
Kirby fights to protect the crops, beats up Dynablade, once again asks questions later, only to find out that she had kids that she was protecting, which in turn explains all the crop business.
No it doesn't, Matt. Her stealing crops doesn't have anything to do with protecting her young. Now, play the pedantic word game all you want and say that she was making sure to feed them, sure, but she was still stealing food, something you just got done condemning Kirby for! Even then, there was no clear way for Kirby to have learned the whole story. In the battle against Dynablade, Dynablade swoops down from the background and starts the battle. Kirby didn't learn the story because Dynablade didn't let him. Dynablade starts the conflict, not Kirby.
A beat down to a mother who is protecting her kids. Something that could have very easily been avoided if Kirby hadn't run in guns blazing. And again, if you think all of this is a stretch, then I'm reading too much into these details. I'm not. The games at this point recognize the dangerous impulsiveness of Kirby, how it can be used for good, but also that it can be used as a weapon for evil. In fact, Kirby is descended from a line of evil creatures, a fact that the games are starting to make more and more explicit. So I ask again, what is the true nature of Kirby? He is a chaotic, neutral god reincarnated into multiple generations with the sole purpose of destruction. But that part is a whole separate discussion for next week.
I guess FNAF's more important, huh? Also, if he was chaotic neutral, then why the hell are you only focusing on the negatives of Kirby? Like, take for example, again, Dynablade. We're never explicitly told that Kirby's motive, so it may have been to save the crops. I can't say that conclusively, but we see Kirby find the chicks at the other side of the summit, so it's likely that Kirby didn't see them, and was more focused on Dynablade herself, who, again, started the conflict. We see Kirby take care of the chicks before Dynablade recovers and takes them away, showing his kind nature. Oh, and don't think I didn't catch you change the title of the video again. No wonder part 2 is off the rails. At this point, it's not even fun anymore. If anyone's wondering, no, I'm not going to cover part 2 if it ever comes out. I'll point you in the direction of those who actually care. But for now, I'm MangaKamen, and remember to examine your fandom and wait, are you still milking FNAF? Really?